All right, everybody, we're in. Week 4 is upon us. Ross, it is your birthday.
It is.
Happy birthday, man.
Thank you.
This is not a birthday with a 0 on it.
It is not. It is 41. I cannot think of a football player that has a 41 on their jersey. I usually like to equate birthday years to jersey numbers.
Yes, that is the way to do it. But yeah, 41 is a tough number because you're getting into the fullback, the occasional running back, the
tons of safety, right?
Yeah, some safeties, right? Yeah, 41's not jumping out. I'm sure somebody will say, "Well, duh, you're forgetting so and so." But yeah. Well, as we get going this morning, I've got my homage shirt on, Topps homage shirt. Really liking this shirt. Got a wash in it. It's feeling even better than last week. So feeling good about that. Affiliate link in the comments if you guys want to hit up homage. Yes. Really cool stuff. Take a look at there. Some point we're going to get some pop culture t-shirts too. We got to, I mean, you and I both like the movies.
Yes.
And we'll get into that. And we're going to celebrate your birthday with some good picks. I have a feeling that you're going to give us some gold here. Last week, again, third straight week. If you're betting with us every single week so far this year, we've been profitable. So that's good. I carried us week 1, which is fine. And then the last 2 weeks, you have gotten yourself out of the hole. You are now +0. You are like even on the year, and I'm a +7. I was plus 0.5 the last 2 weeks. The Chiefs really effed me last week. That game, I mean, watching that game, they were just like, we don't want to win. Like, it was unbelievable how sad and pathetic the Chiefs were last week, and they screwed me into Survivor, and then a huge swing there for what was going to happen with my bets here because I put a double bet on that. But looking at the board this week, overall, I have to say I'm not as excited about a lot of these lines as I was last week. Mm-hmm. Last week, I felt really confident about a lot of my picks. This week, I'm a little bit more tepid. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with a ton of bets, but start us off. Give us birthday bet number 1.
Birthday bet number 1. I'm going to go to Houston this week. Listen, the Texans are winless right now. The Bears just played them last week. Ugly football game. I was there in person. Roquan Smith with the interception near the end there. And the Bears win on the field goal. They actually covered their spread. But to me, I'm looking at that +6 number, and Houston is at home. And look, the Chargers are beaten up right now. They got injuries all over their football team. They're ravaged right now. Keenan Allen is struggling right now, right? They've lost Slater, their left tackle for the season. Herbert has got a ribs injury right now. Listen, I just think that the Texans are going to be able to play better football at home, and I just don't like +6 as a team that's playing at home. So I think they're going to cover. I'm not super confident about it, so I'm going to put a blue chip on there. But I do like them to cover right now. I just think the Chargers are really struggling, and I think we could see some buzz out of this game about Brandon Staley and maybe the whole aura of him starting to wear off a little bit.
Yeah, if they drop this one, that's a big deal. I mean, going on the road in the NFL isn't exactly, isn't easy no matter where you go. But if you drop to the Texans, who no one has a very high opinion of, the Texans have been playing people hard. I think that's they're a professional team, right? It's Lovie Smith is. I don't know what you would say, like replacement level head coach, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's not a bad head coach. This isn't like an Urban Meyer situation, but he's not like bringing anything that's super unique or interesting or anything like that.
Very, very John Fox like, right?
Yeah, he's going to give you a level, right? Yeah. And so he's going to have his team prepared. He understands how to do that. I don't know. Like the Chargers, again, like you said, they're beat up. I think that's too many points to lay on a team that's that beat up. I'm going to go to the game above it. Let's get into some points. I think Buffalo against Miami last week, like that's a going down to Miami in September game. Yeah. We should have been more on that. I blame myself for not taking in the weather into account here. But I still think that they're a really good football team. I know that Josh Allen is playing kind of hero ball. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of a teaser of what is going to come later on in the show. But I think he's playing a lot of hero ball, but they've also just built that offense around him. I think they're still the best team in the league. I think they can go into Baltimore. Baltimore secondary's beat up. I think that they'll be able to pass all over them. And I think that Lamar's been on a tear as well. Like, I mean, this is like the two quarterbacks that sort of play at like a level above everything else. So I got 2 bets on this game. The over/under bet 51. That's a big number. I don't think it holds it. I think that both of these defenses are beat up enough to where the offenses on both sides are going to have their way with them. So I like the over on this game, and I like the Buffalo Bills to bounce back here. And 3, even if they win by 3, I guess I push. So at least it's not 3.5. So I'm gonna put a chip here. Actually, you know what? I'll do the over under with the full chip. I'm gonna put the half chip on the -3.
I like it.
Where you going next?
I'm actually going to stay in that game as well. And, listen, prayers to everybody involved this week with Hurricane Ian and what's going on in Florida. I talked to my sister today who lives in Tampa Bay, and they just got power back after not having power for the last couple of days. But now that thing is heading north a little bit. It's turning into a little bit of a tropical storm, but it's going to affect some football games today. Excuse me. And I look at Josh Allen, who doesn't necessarily play great in inclement weather situations, whether it's extreme hot or it gets ugly with rain and stuff like that. It's going to be pretty rainy today in Baltimore. They're expecting rain about 11 o'clock in the morning. It could be a steady set of rain today. I just think that both teams are going to have a struggle to throw the football today. I'm actually going to take the under on that one. I'm going to put a blue chip on there.
All right.
I'm going to take the under today in that football game. I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be an ugly football game. It's quite similar to what we're going to see with our Bears as well later on today. But, I could definitely be wrong, but I just feel like it might be one of those 20-17 football games.
Well, I mean, even in this out here, I guess there's that.
It will.
No, I totally understand and respect that. All right, let me go over here to let's go to the other side of the board.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go to the Lions game. Lions are beat up on offense. They got their backup running back, who just happens to be really good.
Yes.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is not going to play. Is that going to affect their offense enough? Maybe, right? Like, he's been kind of world-beating level. I just have such a low opinion of the Seahawks. I wish that this game was 3 points to the Lions and not 3.5. But I feel really good about the Lions here, and I keep putting money on the Lions. This is kind of like your Jags, where you're putting money on Jags lines, and I've been putting money on Lions lines, and it's been treating me well. And I'm not going to stop here because they've got a bad team that they're hosting. And again, the injuries concern me a little bit, but for me, I'm feeling confident enough that I'm going to put an orange chip on the Lions 3.5 at home. I think that we're still sleeping on the Lions a little bit. They're 1-2. I get it. But I think we're sleeping on the Lions being like a legitimately decent team, whereas the Seahawks are a bad team. And to me, that line should be more like 5 or 6. And so I'll take the disrespect, I guess, that the Lions are receiving here. And I'll take them at 3.5 at home.
I completely agree with you. I'm also going to put an orange chip on there. I think that Jamal Williams is actually a better running back than DeAndre Swift. It was funny watching Hard Knocks, throughout the preseason, and they were always challenging Swift to kind of, be mentally tougher and to kind of play through adversity and stuff like that. And lo and behold, he's not even playing today. He's out with an injury. I think that Dan Campbell and Deuce Staley are going to kind of send him a message a little bit. I think they like Jamal Williams a lot more. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of him today. And I think that the Lions are going to be able to win that game by more than 3.5. I think the Seahawks are the worst team in the NFL by far. And I just don't know how they're going to be able to score points today on the road indoors against the Lions.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you could throw some money on the under on that too, just because the Seahawks offense could get shut down pretty easy. Because they're not good at football. So there's that. Let's make sure we cover the Bears game. I'm not like incredibly confident about anything in this Bears team, but I do think that because they get some points, it's easy for me to throw it on there. It's going to be an ugly game, likely, right? Like you said, the weather's going to impact this one. It's going to be rainy. Maybe we get another monsoon type game. Bears are 1-0 in monsoons so far this year, but to me, this is a a matchup of teams that are in similar spots. They're both new coaching staffs. They're both rebuilding. There's some talent in some parts of their rosters, but certainly they're lacking in others. To me, if it was the other way, if the Bears were favored by 3 here, I would say that the smart money is to put on the underdog, because I think that they're pretty evenly balanced teams. So to me, 3 points is, it's basically saying that the home field advantage gets the 3, but I think the Bears can keep it close. And I mean, I'm picking the Bears to win on the money line as well, but I like them to at least cover the 3.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. I'm going to put an orange chip on there as well with it. Listen, you look at what the Giants are putting out there for wide receivers right now, and it actually might be worse than the Chicago Bears. And then you they're missing 3 of their better wide receivers right now. I don't trust Daniel Jones at all. I don't trust him, especially with that weather. And I don't think that Saquon Barkley is. I mean, you could probably stack the box against Saquon Barkley today and really just sell out on the run. And then you go in with the fact that the Giants on defense really struggle to stop the run, and that's actually the Bears' strength right now. The Bears are one of the best teams in football in running with the football. Khalil Herbert had a monster game last week. We know that Wink Martindale, defensive coordinator for the Giants, is going to want to blitz Justin Fields a lot. That forces him out the pocket. I think that actually plays a little bit to the Bears' advantage. I like his rushing yards on the over a lot today, because I think he's going to scramble and get out of there. But yeah, I just like the Bears +3 today on the road. I agree with you.
I'm going to go. This is my favorite bet of the day, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I got burned on the double bet last week. I don't think I'm going to use my double bet this week. I'm feeling a little gun shy. I'm going to use another orange chip, and I'm going to put it on the over on the Cleveland and Atlanta game. So Cleveland Browns really good at running the football. You know who else is good at running the football? Atlanta. The Cleveland Browns are actually really efficient at throwing the football. You know who else is really efficient at throwing the football? Atlanta. Like they're actually both really well coached, well balanced offensive teams. Their defenses are, particularly the Falcons' defense doesn't really have anything going for them. The Browns' defense hasn't really shown up. They got that lucky on that last second play against the Steelers in that Thursday night game last week, where they covered a fumble in the end zone or whatever. Fantasy wise, I know this specifically because they were my fantasy team last week. But these defenses aren't necessarily playing all that well, but their offenses are really good and they're really well coached. Both head coaches, good offensive minds, good offensive play callers. 47 is not the highest number of the week. I mean, it's high-ish 40s. So to me, I don't think that holds them back. I'm going to take the over in that game. Again, it's probably my favorite bet of the week. I'm just not feeling quite confident enough to put a double bet on an over-under.
I like it. I'm going to go to that Carolina Panthers and Cardinals game. Again, sticking a little bit with the weather theme today. It's going to be a little bit of inclement weather down in Charlotte, but I still like the over in that football game. They're not getting as much rain as the upper East Coast area. So I think that the NFL kind of adjusted that line because they thought that there was going to be a lot of inclement weather. I'm going to take the over at 43.5 today. I think both those football teams are going to be able to put some points on the board. I know that the Carolina Panthers have a decent defense, but I just think that Kyler Murray is going to be able to get, scramble around, get a couple scores. I like James Conner to get some scores today. And I like Baker Mayfield as well to kind of get into a little bit of rhythm against a football team that's not really that good. So I'm going to take the over at the 43.5 on the Cardinals and Carolina Panthers. I'll put a blue chip on there, though. Not super confident about it, but still feel pretty good about it.
All right, let's go maybe a little speed round so we can get to prize picks. So I will. I'm gonna throw. I don't feel good about this. But I'm gonna throw a blue chip on +9 for the Patriots. That's just too big of a number. Belichick's a pretty good defensive, mind. I don't think they're a very good football team, but can they keep it within a touchdown with the backup quarterback? I don't think Green Bay's rolling yet. I like that one. What about
you? Quickly, Jets, Steelers. Give me a blue chip +3.5 on the Jets. The Jets have won me some money before. Zach Wilson back in the lineup today. I don't think the Steelers are a very good football team. I think the Jets can kind of sneak in there and at least get a backdoor cover.
I like it. Blue chip on the Titans +3.5. Again, I don't think the Titans are a good football team, but I don't think the Colts are playing very well either. I think they got incredibly lucky to win that game last week. It was just kind of handed to them, and I like the hook there. So I'll take a little bet on the Titans away.
I like it. Orange chip for me on my Jaguars. You keep giving me these big lines when they're on the road. I'm going to keep taking it. Plus 6.5 is a big number. The Eagles have not scored more than 3 points in the second half of their last 2 football games. The Jaguars are a good football team. Eventually, somebody in the NFL is going to start to take notice. But that's too big of a line for me on the road.
Yeah, I will. I'll join you just because I think I'm really excited about that game, and I think it'll be close.
Yeah.
You got any more?
Yes, I got one more. Blue chip for me on the Raiders minus 2.5. Eventually, this team has got to get on track. They need this football game today. It's a home game, hostile environment. I know no Hunter Renfrow today, but it should be a steady dose of Devontae Adams to beat them to cover that spread.
Perfect. Well, I mean, bet with Ross. It's his birthday. I think it's going to go well for him. So, all right. Well, let's move on to the Prize Picks prop bets. So we tweeted this out earlier because Ross has a live game right now. I wanted to make sure that if people wanted to bet with Ross, that they were able to do that. We'll start doing that. Not every week's going to have a London week, but that is out there. Let me check on where we're at with that. They just started the third quarter.
Got 156 yards right now into the third quarter, so he needs to pick it up a little bit.
So that's the bet that's shown here is the second half bet. So again, he was about on pace for what the total game bet was. So for the record, we'll go with the full game bet, but this is for the second half bet that's shown on the screen. But why don't you just talk about what you thought about Cousins, and we'll get it moving here.
Yeah, I just think that right now the Saints, not a good football team. They're playing Andy Dalton. They don't have Alvin Kamara in the lineup. And I just think that the Vikings are going to have a lot more possessions on offense. And they just recovered a fumble right now in plus territory, which means that Kirk Cousins should have ample opportunities to throw the football today. There should be no reason why he shouldn't have over 250 yards, over 130.5 yards in the second half. There should be no reason for that. This is I trust London Kirk, early morning Kirk, over primetime Monday Night Football Kirk.
I like it. All right, so I'm going to start off with I just said I think the Tennessee is going to keep it close. Indianapolis game, Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce has like over-unders in terms of like catches and targets in like the 5 catch range, but yet his receiving yards is 28.5. So like I don't actually get the incongruousness there or whatever. 28.5 receiving yards for Alec Pierce. He needs to catch one ball. He's a deep threat, right? So to me that felt too low. He doesn't really need much in terms of targets to get over 28.5. And so if they are going to target him, he should easily eclipse that. So to me that was kind of on the low end receiving yards. Guys, like some of them, hey, you're going to get 85 yards. It's a little harder to guess, but on these like low end guys, this is the one that kind of stuck out to me as being likely to eclipse.
I like it. I'm going back to that Chargers in Houston game. Listen, David Mills, not a bad quarterback. I mean, he's right now he's not a bad quarterback. But that 2.5 rushing yards, that's just one scramble, David. It's like show those wheels. That's one scramble. This year so far, he hasn't quite hit that number yet. He's had 1 rushing yard last week against the Bears, but I do think he'll be able to get out of the pocket today and just get 3 measly yards. I like that, to take the over on that.
So Ross wants to see the giraffe run. Got it.
I do.
Yeah. Duly noted. Speaking of a guy that actually does how to run the football, Jamal Williams. So Swift's out. Jamal Williams is going to be the lead back. Jamal Williams has been great as the secondary back so far this year. As a Deandre Swift owner, this hurts me that Williams is so good because, like you said, they're gonna give him some run here, and we'll see. Right, this might be a full committee before we know it, and my fantasy team is gonna just like totally tank because of that. But 62.5 against a bad Seattle team, where I think that they're going to have the lead for most of the game, means that I think Jamal Williams is in for 20 carries. So if he's going to get 20 carries, even if he's going to get 15 carries, but if he's going to get 20 carries, he's going to blow by 62.5. So this to me was easy peasy money. And since you already took Herbert down the line, I had to find another backup running back that's in a starter role that I feel really good about.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to the Bears and Giants today. Again, inclement weather. This guy's missing 3 of his top receivers. I don't know how he's going to get to over 190 yards today. I'm going to take the under on Daniel Jones passing yards today. I just think that the Bears defense is going to be able to get to him, kind of suffocate him a little bit, and I don't trust any of those wide receivers for the Giants this week.
Yeah, and again, he lost Sterling Shepard, right? And so even though the Bears secondary is beat up with the weather and with their lack of weapons, it's tough to see them throwing the ball much. Plus, they had some success on the ground last week. Yeah. So you would imagine that they're going to try to run Saquon Barkley. Barkley over yards would be a good bet too, to be honest. He's a little higher than he's like at 80 or something like that. But I mean, that's what they're going to have to try to do. The Bears are going to have to try to stack the box.
Might want to look at maybe like a rushing and receiving yards for Saquon Barkley and see where that number's at. It might take the over on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I know Bears fans don't like to cheer against Bears, but that's something too.
Cheer for money.
I'm going to go to the Kansas City Tampa Bay game, and I love Travis Kelce. I think Travis Kelce is fantastic. I also like Levante David, who's a really good player on the Bucs defense, who has had success against Travis Kelce in the past. And, I believe in Andy Reid to be able to, figure out offense and all that kind of stuff. He did not do that last week. So I guess I'm a little mad at Andy Reid. But it's still a tight end, and he's, one of the best tight ends, if not the best tight. I mean, Gronk's the best tight end. But in terms of just pure receiving tight end, Kelce's right there, man. Like he's the man. But I don't think it's a given that he's going to get in the end zone here against a linebacker that's had success against him in the past. So for me, I'm gonna bet on the Bucs D to be able to take Kelce, to keep Kelce out of the end zone. So this is my under bet this week that I feel really good about.
I like that. That Bucs team is a very good defense. Todd Bowles is going to have them ready to go. They're going to play inspired football for that state in the city of Tampa, who's had an absolutely brutal week. I'm happy that they're keeping that game there in Tampa, and then those fans can at least be able to enjoy that. But I like that bet a lot. We're going back to the Bears and Giants again. The Bears really good at running the football. They're like 6th in the NFL right now running the football. The Giants stink at being able to stop the run. Ugly weather today. This is a Khalil Herbert day all day long. I think he is one of the better backs in the league. I think that the league is going to be able to take notice after this football game. I like the over on 78.5 on Khalil Herbert's rushing yards today, and he should be able to get into the end zone as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging 4 or 5 yards a carry right now, and you think that the Bears are going to continue to run the ball. How many carries a day feel good about giving to Treston Ebner, who's going to be the primary backup here? I don't know. Like, I just, I can see them getting some wide receiver jet sweeps and reverses and stuff to maybe take a couple carries off that way. I can see them trying to get Justin Fields involved, why don't you just handle that right now? But, they're going to give the bulk carries to Herbert, and they've been successful so far. And the Giants, haven't been great at stopping the run. So this one seems like everything's lined up for this to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And rookie Velus Jones is making his season debut today. I feel like they might be able to get a couple touches in his hands in terms of like jet sweeps and stuff like that, like you said. But I also like the over on Justin Fields rushing yards today, 36.5. Like I said earlier, I think the Giants are going to blitz him when he drops back to pass. I think he's going to be it's in his mindset right now to not stay in the pocket and scramble out of the pocket. We can have some other thoughts about that in terms of his quarterbacking right now, but I think that for the sake of this line, it helps the over on that. I just think that the Bears are going to have more designed runs for him. He's going to be able to scramble out the pocket more, and I like the over on 36.5 on that.
Yeah, it seems like they're probably going to, particularly if weather's an issue and given everything with the passing game, they're probably going to draw some stuff up for Justin. Obviously, some of that will come from scrambles, but I think there might be some design run elements as well for him to be able to get over that mark. That's not particularly hard. He busted off a 20-yarder last week. You think that he could do something similar this week. He has been running the ball a lot, and so he just needs to break 1 or 2 for that to happen. Chubb, my weekly Nick Chubb bet. Normally I'm doing the yards. There is a touchdown bet here. Again, I just think there's going to be a lot of points in this one. So give me Chubb to be able to get one of those touchdowns. He carries the ball a lot more than he receives it. So I don't mind that it's just rushing touchdowns that I'm betting on, and not just like a touchdown bet. He's going to carry the ball in for a score. I just think he's just so good. and Cleveland is the one team that's outrunning the Bears in terms of yards per game. And a lot of that's just Nick Chubb and this offensive line. Give me Nick Chubb to score a touchdown in this one.
Yeah, Nick Chubb has over 300 rushing yards to start this season. I feel like at the end of the day, he might have like over 500 yards. I think he should have a huge day on the ground. And I actually like his backup too, Kareem Hunt, a lot, as maybe playing like a receiving touchdown as well. I think that both those guys are going to be able to get into the end zone today. So I like that.
And then again, I'm not like a touchdown guy, but for some reason the yardage marks didn't jump out at me. But the way that I have seen this game play, and you have put in some doubt in my mind, and that's fine. But the way that I have seen this game play out is that there's going to be a lot of points in Baltimore. So Diggs is on another level right now. Like, Stephon Diggs is like, hey, don't forget about me. Everybody talking about Justin Jefferson and how great he is. He's like, hey, remember that the Bills traded for me, and then the Vikings drafted Justin Jefferson. Diggs is just playing incredibly well. This Ravens secondary has been beat up. They've been playing some backups. Even if the guys are coming back, you don't know what their full health is. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this one. Allen loves to go to Diggs. I'm going to say that he scores a touchdown today. Again, that's my favorite receiving touchdown bet of the day. I just think that they're playing on a different level right now. Like they're playing mind meld type football. Yep. And I think there's going to be a lot of points to be had. And if there's a lot of points to be had, it's probably Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that offense ran over 90 plays last week in Miami. They got a little bit gassed with the weather and stuff like that. But, we saw this Ravens defense give up a ton of points as well to the same Miami Dolphins. So, that Ravens defense definitely be had. And Stephon Diggs is one of the 5 best wide receivers in football. I mean, he's having a dynamic start to this season right now. So I like that.
All right. Well, that's our Prize Picks segment. If you do want to check them out, click on the promo code that's in the affiliate link. Or you can just go to Prize Picks, download the app, check out what they got, play around with it. If you're interested in playing, type in the promo code Bears. It's the best promo code there is. So that's easy peasy. And then check it out. So if you can win 10x, if you win all 5 of your bets, if you get them all right, that's a 10x payout, which is pretty cool. But we're going to start tracking that. So Ross and I have hit 4 out of 5 once, 1 week of the 3 each, which is a 2x payout. We've hit 3 out of the 5, which is a 0.4 payout. And then we've lost 1 week. Like we just didn't get to 3 out of 5. So we're plus 1.4 so far in the year. We'll keep track of that and move through the year with that. But Ross, before we let you go, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Any final advice for the people on birthday Sunday?
No, just relax, everybody. Everybody on the East Coast, stay safe with the weather. But hopefully, good luck to everybody today. Let's win some money, and let's hope that this is usually the week. By week 4, things start to kind of stabilize a little bit in the NFL. You kind of see what the trends are going to be going forward. So I think today is a big barometer of we'll see who are the good teams and who are the really bad teams, and who we might be able to be confident in betting on going forward. Go Jaguars! My new favorite team. Let's continue to win some money with the Jaguars.
All right, Ross. Have a good one. Appreciate it, man.
Yep. Bye.
All right. Now we're joined by Erik Smith of the quarterback list, the QB list, to go over some daily fantasy, some Survivor, as you hear me gripe about last week, and some other stuff. But Erik, happy Sunday morning to you.
Yeah, happy Sunday. This is great. I got a football game on right now. Bengals already won this week. I just get to put my feet up and just enjoy football. It's perfect, really.
Yeah, I was decided to go back and check on that game, because what's funny is I didn't realize that it was in London. I didn't realize it was a Sunday morning game. So we're competing against London. Right. But it was funny because the Vikings were a team that I was going to pick in Survivor, because I kind of have an idea of where you're going to go. And then I was like, I can't pick them. Like, that doesn't count. Like, because you're talking about who do you pick for the day. So
right.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough one. I have an idea that I'm going to be struggling here in a little bit, but let's start off with the daily fantasy lineups. Again, we don't talk about this. Erik just sends me, and it's just fun how there's some similarities each and every week. This one doesn't have the same number of players that are the same, but there's some games that are the same. And I think the thinking is a similar thing. So again, if you think that we are dumb, then you should take this information and say, okay, like this is what groupthink is thinking. I'm going to take something other than this. Or you can take elements of this or take a blend, or maybe we have some ideas here that are imperfect separately, but when you combine them, they're really good. So I've already talked. I'm going to kick us off. Okay. I already talked about the Buffalo-Baltimore game. It has the highest over/under of the week, and so for me, like, why does that have the highest over/under? Josh Allen playing on another level. So's Lamar. I think both guys are live. I think I feel better about the Bills offense going against Baltimore's defense. Mm-hmm. So the first person I picked was Josh Allen. And then I paired him with his number one wide receiver, Stephon Diggs. So I went spendy early, and I paired that duo up, Allen to Diggs, and I put my marker on the board. That's how I started my team.
Yeah, and so I obviously went with Josh Allen as well. Quarterback is tough this week. We've got a lot of good quarterbacks flexed out in the Sunday night games, Monday night games. They're just not even in our player pool today. So, I like Josh Allen. I think he's the biggest lock in this slate. And I wanted to change my lineup up a little bit. So I went with Gabe Davis. I'm obviously watching his injury situation up to kickoff to make sure he's good to go. But I felt like maybe just that questionable tag on FanDuel is going to scare a lot of people off. We've seen Gabe Davis with huge upside in the past, and he played through this injury last week, and he did not produce a lot, but he was on the field for 95% of the snaps, I think. So he was out there. So as long as we're getting that full go here with inactives here pretty soon, I just felt like Gabe Davis was kind of like a pivot off of the Stephon Diggs, which is obviously the bigger play, the higher upside play, but I do think Davis is kind of the sneaky option here.
Well, let's play out the wide receivers here. Yeah. So to balance this out, I needed some cheaper players, and so I went with Alec Pierce, who's a deep play threat. So this is the guy that, I mean, he hasn't done anything yet, right? But they're starting to incorporate him more in the lineup. The trend's moving up. Playing Tennessee, who I don't think is that good of a football team. I think this is the week that he could spike a touchdown. It's a cheap play. And, again, Titans defense is not very good. You see on the opponent rank, they're 29th in the league against wide receivers. I think he just needs to catch one or two long balls for this to be like a really nice payout here. So Pierce was the first cheaper wide receiver. And then Noah Brown, really productive so far. There's not a lot going on in that Dallas offense. They're playing the Commanders, who are 30th against wide receivers. Yeah. I don't know much about him as a player, but this is a guy that has had production. Maybe he gets kind of pushed back to a secondary role when some of these other guys come back healthy, but those guys have not proven to be healthy yet. So I assume he's still going to soak up some targets. And so to me, this was more of a sneaky floor play. So I've got kind of a sneaky ceiling play and a sneaky floor play with my two other wide receivers in those spots.
Yeah, and again, it's funny how it worked out. I originally had Michael Pittman in my lineup in place of Cortland Sutton. Same reason. This is a good matchup against the Titans defense, giving up a lot of fantasy points to wide receivers. So I had Pittman. I needed a little bit of the extra room when I went Josh Allen. That just kind of changed the way my whole lineup was going. So I saved some money, went down to Sutton, but same thinking there. That's a really nice matchup to target. And then obviously I have CeeDee Lamb as well. That Washington secondary is not good. They've been torched by a lot of teams. This is the second year now where they're getting torched. And CeeDee Lamb had like a 40% target share last week. They were just giving him the ball a ton. So I know the upside isn't quite there with Cooper Rush, but he's shown that he's competent. And I felt 6,800 was a really nice price for CeeDee Lamb. So yeah, same thinking there. I like Noah Brown a lot. He's been playing a lot of snaps. Michael Gallup is back this week, or at least last I saw. We'll see for the inactives, but I wouldn't expect a full snap share, and Brown has looked really good. So I agree.
So let's go to the running backs, and then we'll kind of play with we'll talk about the rest of the lineup. But so the running backs for me, I thought about all 4 of these guys that we've identified in these top spots. So that's just kind of funny to begin with. But again, this is sort of how this works. I had to take Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
Like, I just think he's going to be a monster. I don't know how much they trust Trestan Ebner to take away carries like that. That's their third string back. He's a rookie. How many carries is he really going to have? I really think that they're gonna put Velus Jones in for a couple carries, either on jet sweeps or something creative where he's maybe lining up in the backfield in his rookie debut. But I don't see them just saying, okay, Trestan Ebner, we believe in you for 7 carries as a backup. They're going to give those carries to Herbert. They're going to ride him today. So, and it's probably going to be a big running game. I think that the weather may impact this game to the point where there's a lot of running on both sides, which is why you have Barkley in the lineup, I assume. So to me, Herbert was like a safe play. The Bears have been running the ball incredibly well. And then I took Eckler because, again, I was attracted to that opponent rank against running backs. Houston is 31st in the league. They're beat up. The Chargers are beat up a little bit right now. I'm not quite sure exactly how their offense is going to shake out, but Eckler to me just hasn't had that big game yet. But I think he's due. I think this is a really good spot for him to explode on the road here. And so I spent a premium amount on Eckler and a pretty good amount on Herbert to give me what I think is a pretty good 1-2 punch. I like your 1-2 punch at running back though too.
Yeah, so I was considering Herbert as well. I think everyone's going to be considering Herbert or Jamal Williams here. They are the backup running backs that are set up for just a huge workload this week. Also have a really nice matchup. I kind of went with Jamal just because he's at home against Seattle. That was really the deal breaker for me. Like, I think everyone's going to be picking Khalil Herbert, and I think that's a wise choice, but they are underdogs on the road. We could see them fall behind and just not run the ball like they did against Houston last week. But I love Herbert as a player. So you have to make a decision on Herbert and Jamal. You could play them both. You could play one. You could try to fade them completely, but they are going to be very, very, very popular. So that was kind of my thinking. I kind of pivoted from Herbert to Saquon Barkley, who he may be the RB1 right now. Like, his workload, his usage, everything is pointing in the right direction for Saquon. So I just kind of felt like that was a good deal for him. I'll pivot to Jamal. If you're in a big tournament, though, I think you could make a case for using neither Herbert and Jamal and trying to get a little unique with your lineup. But if you're in like a cash game, if you're in a league with just a few of your friends, whatever it may be, Herbert and Jamal Williams are excellent plays.
Yeah, I mean, I look at that and I think, the play, we basically spent the same amount on the running back, the backfield for the top 2 backs. And I think that you could, if everybody's going to play Williams and Herbert and you wanted to go against the grain, you could play Eckler, or maybe not. Eckler's not even that smart of a play, right? I mean, it's just like, to me, it's matchup. And I think that they're going to ride him, but maybe it's Barkley plus someone like Najee Harris, who seems he's cheaper than Williams and Herbert. That was like, I guess I'll just talk about that. I put Harris in my flex because he was pretty cheap, right? And I was pretty surprised at being able to get him for less than Herbert. And so he's playing the Jets at home. Like, I don't know that I love the Pittsburgh offense. I'm not going to love it all year, but Harris is their guy. He's been a little down, so maybe that's, it's a market adjustment for the number of points that he's been able to put up. But this is a game that they should have a chance to carry a lead in. And so I think that he should have a pretty good workload here. I don't know. That seemed like a pretty safe floor bet to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he kind of survived his early season injury scare. Najee Harris did. He still played the fourth most percentage of snaps among running backs last week. So he's going to be in the field a ton. We know if Pittsburgh gets up on the Jets, they're going to run the ball a lot. So yeah, I think that's a really nice play. I'm all on board with that. And then speaking of Eckler, like I had Herbert and Mike Williams in initially when I was building this lineup, just kind of thinking that people are going to be scared off by the Herbert injury, but that's a really nice matchup. And if Justin Herbert is back and healthy, like, they're going to put up a lot of points on Houston. So I think Eckler plays into that same thought as well. Like, it's a sneaky matchup. One of these weeks, Herbert's just going to be fine slinging the ball, 80 yards downfield, and we're going to want to be in on this team that week.
Yep. Okay. You have Rashad Bateman. So you are also thinking about that Baltimore game from the other angle. And this was a pretty nice, I mean, I saw him too. I think that Buffalo's secondary is a little bit depleted with Micah Hyde out, but they're still a good football team. They're still pretty good against the pass. But again, Bateman's kind of emerging as Lamar's top wide receiver, as he should be, and he seems like a pretty safe floor bet here.
Yeah, he's getting a ton of air yards. He's getting deep shots. He's kind of feeling that Hollywood Brown role to some extent, which is encouraging because I think we see him as more than just a deep threat. So he's getting the deep shots from Lamar. That's going to be huge for upside. And then, yeah, we just steal a little bit of work from Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews can still get, 12 targets a game. Just save a few for Rashad Bateman. So, but yeah, I just thought he was a nice bring back on the other side of that Buffalo stack that I have. But obviously Lamar is in play. Mark Andrews is in play. Like there's a couple other good options there for Baltimore.
So to finish out my lineup, I went back into that Detroit-Seattle game, and this is how I got into that game. Hawkinson was cheap, and when you have Amon-Ra St. Brown out, you have Swift out, which puts Williams into the spotlight. But I think from a receiving option, I think that should put Hawkinson up a little bit. Seattle is not particularly good at defending anything, but they're not particularly good against defending tight ends. So to me, where's Jared Goff going to go with the football? He probably should be going to Hawkinson here. So that to me was a kind of screamed value. And then this might be crazy because I don't think much of the Detroit defense, but I put the Detroit defense in because I thought they're probably going to be protecting a lead. They'll grab some sacks, and I think they'll grab some turnovers because I think that the Seattle's just not very good. They'll put the ball in the air to try to catch up late in the game. Maybe they steal a pick or two, and so this is a real dart throw for me because I don't think highly of the Lions defense, but it was super cheap and it let me do some other things. I could see switching it out for your defense because they actually have some talent. But that's where I went here in my lineup. So again, it's not perfect. I don't love it, but I was just thinking about game flow.
Yeah, the big question for the Lions defense will be, I mean, they've officially declared Deandre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and DJ Chark inactive. So that's great for Hawkinson. He should get a lot of work. If this Lions offense can still put up points like it has recently, then yeah, you're going to have the lead against Seattle, and I really like that. So I think it's almost going to come down to the offense. Like if Goff can still move the ball, put up points, then they're going to be a solid play. The Colts defense for me, like I like it. I'm not in love with it. Tennessee is not a great offense, but Ryan Tannehill is a professional quarterback. I like to try to target these backups and kind of young quarterbacks still figuring things out. So I see the Colts as kind of a floor play. I'm not sure the ceiling, but also it just takes a defensive touchdown and all of a sudden you've got ceiling. So defense is a little tricky. I think these are probably the min-priced ones, and then there's some defenses you could spend up on if you want to spend a little more for some upside here.
Yep. So this is our daily fantasy lineup. I think that mine's imperfect. You should bet Erik's more than me, but I think that there's some elements here. I think you could cobble together a Frankenstein from some of these ideas, or maybe go into some of these games and pick different players. But I think those are the basic building blocks here. Pretty interesting stuff. Again, my lineups have been like pretty good, but not like good to cash so far. So I'm not doing great on my lineup so far, and Erik's are I think you had one that hit pretty well. Sometimes it just comes down to getting lucky on these guys here. Like, if Alec Pierce catches a 60-yard touchdown and gets a spike for me, and these guys perform like they should, then I'll probably be able to do that. But there's been a couple times where a guy just was a dud. And if you bet a stud and he turns out to be a dud that week, you're pretty much sunk. So always interesting to kind of build those lineups. But let's move on to Survivor. So let me complain a little bit. So this was one of those weeks where the Bears weren't on TV, so I had to go. I met up with a buddy. We watched games, and it was just one of those places that it was kind of cool. We slid into a booth, and the booth had a TV behind my buddy. It had a TV to like our right, the open spaces to our left, or to my right, and then behind me was another TV. So like our booth had 3 TVs, like to view games, and then there was just wall to wall. The behind the bar there was probably like 20 TVs. So they went, I don't know, Costco had a sale or something, and they went to town. But it was a lot of fun to have all the games on. I'm not used to that. I normally just watch, one game at a time. And I kept looking at the Chiefs game because I'm like, well, let's make sure I get my survivor bet. And I don't know what they were doing the whole game. I mean, like, I don't think that I hate to say, like, well, the Chiefs beat themselves, but that's what it felt like. They just maybe I just had some rooting interest, but they had all these opportunities. They had a backup kicker that probably impacted the game a lot more than it should have. I mean, just a frustrating thing to watch because I had a clean sheet. This was my top pick. I got the first pick last week. It was okay, easy peasy. Take the Chiefs. That's the easy game. And now I'm even. Like now we've both got a strike by week 3, so that's frustrating. And then you get to start this week, and the board is not kind because there's a lot of question marks after one kind of obvious play. So let's hear it. What are you going to do here?
And I'll also complain that I got eliminated from both my survivor pools with the Chiefs last week. So they were my first choice. I stuck with the process. I thought about splitting it up between the Chiefs and the Eagles just to kind of diversify. Should have done that, obviously. But this week, it's pretty clear. It's got to be the Packers at home against the Patriots, against a backup quarterback. They're the biggest line at 9.5. I think the Packers are favored by right now. It is rough afterwards. So this isn't maybe the ideal matchup if Mac Jones is starting, although I still think the Packers would be a good choice here. But just being at home against a backup quarterback, you've just got to take your chances with this one. And the Packers haven't exactly been dominant, so I'm not sure that you need to necessarily save them. This looks like a pretty good spot to me.
I agree. This is what I'm using. I have a league where I did the big Yahoo fantasy, deal where, I don't know, 100,000 people participate or whatever, and I got knocked out from the Chiefs, so I'm out of that one. But we have one in Windy City Gridiron. We've got 3 strikes, and I picked the Chiefs in that one as well. So it was my first strike. That was again, I'm bitter. I feel like the Chiefs have given me a strike every single year. Like I just seem to pick the game that the Chiefs just drop one at home. So I don't know. Need to get into Andy Reid's ear a little bit here.
I think you're a personal foul penalty away from winning that game still. Like, I think it was a late personal foul that sealed it, or that gave the Colts life. So I think that's just a bad luck week. That's all.
It was a bad luck week. Absolutely. I'm taking the Packers in the Windy City Gridiron pool as well. I don't love taking the Packers ever, but like you said, I don't think that they're dominant. I bet against them earlier in terms of the spread. 9 points is just a lot, and Belichick being Belichick, I could see him being blown out, but I don't know. I can also see Belichick really kind of tamping this down. And I just, the fact that the Packers escaped Tampa last week, they shouldn't have won that game either, but they just do. So they're going to win this game. They're just, it's just, I don't know by how many points. So I agree with you that that's the pick. So in my instance, I was going to take the Vikings, but I can't. Because they're playing right now, and they're not even winning by that much. That's 19-14. I'd be sweating it. So, total Vikings thing to do is that they would play on a neutral field. This is an away game for both teams, right? Because they're in London. But they go against backup quarterback, and they don't no Alvin Kamara, no Michael Thomas, and somehow they're only winning by 5. Early in the fourth quarter. Yeah, it's just total Vikings thing. So I'm dreading the day that I have to take the Vikings in this thing because they're a mess. Yeah. So I have 2 choices, and my 2 choices I think are not what I would expect. It's Chargers on the road. Chargers have not played well yet. They're 1-2. They could be 2-1. Okay, but they're not, right? They're 1-2. They're beat up, right? Their left tackle's out. Joey Bosa's out. They're just always have injuries. Herbert's coming back. Maybe he's okay, but he didn't exactly look like Justin Herbert after that injury. I still think there's probably the play, but it worries me going on the road and not being at full strength and not maybe understanding everything about you. I'm probably going there. The only other team that I'm thinking about is the Lions.
Okay.
And it's the Lions at home against the Seahawks. The Seahawks, who I think are a bad football team. So here's where I'm stuck, is that I would take the Lions if they had Amon-Ra St. Brown on the field.
Yeah.
Okay. they're down 2 wide receivers and their number 1 running back. I think Jamal Williams is great, but like still, like, you know, they could use both of them, and it's better when both of them are on the field. I don't know what this offense looks like. I think they can still function, but it just worries me. And I don't know when I'm ever going to take the Lions again. I could see taking the Chargers down the road, but I think given where I'm at, I think I'm going to take the Chargers and just kind of live with the chance. They're the better football team. I think the Lions are a better football team too, but I'm like this close to taking if the Lions just didn't have that injury issue, I think I would take them and just kind of go with that. But the Lions also have a couple matchups down the road where maybe you take them. Like I know they play the Jets at some point, you know, so maybe let's see if they get them healthy. I struggled with this for like an hour this morning because I knew you're going to take the Packers, of course. And then it's like, where do you go? I don't know. This is a push-pull for me, but I'll burn the Chargers here. I'm burning 3 AFC West teams in the first 4 weeks. So also on brand for me, because all I could talk about all offseason was how good I think the AFC West is going to be, and then they haven't been good. So, we'll go on brand and we'll burn the Chargers.
Yeah, I think that's the right choice. I mean, we did see the Chargers lose in Houston last year down the stretch, so that's a little scary. But actually, I think Houston's almost looked worse this year than last year. I'm not exactly sure what's going on in Houston, but yeah, that's probably the choice. I worry about the Lions just having a bad defense and then Jared Goff with limited weapons. Like if the offense sputters, they could get down. You know, maybe Rashad Penny gets going. One of my uglier picks, if I had to pick a second, like maybe this is like recency bias, but I kind of like the Cowboys at home against the Commanders. I just don't like what I've seen from Wentz, and they're getting after the quarterback. So I could see Wentz getting sacked 6 times again and Cowboys squeaking out a win. But I agree. Let's go with Justin Herbert. Hope he's back to full strength.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's
tough. It's Cooper Rush.
I hate to bet on a backup quarterback. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. So
for sure.
Well, let's talk about fantasy stuff. We've got a comment here from Kendrick. So let's start off with that. He wants to know Trevor Lawrence, who's playing against the Eagles this week, or Jared Goff, who we were just talking about here with this Detroit offense, limited weapons against a bad Seattle team. So you've got, Lawrence has been playing pretty well. This game's going to be like, who knew that this game was going to be such a big game? Before the year started, would you have put any money on this game being a big deal? No, of course not. I liked the Eagles. I have Eagles bets for winning, a lot. So I was kind of on the Eagles, and I thought, well, Doug Peterson will be an adult in the room, and he can bring this team up to, being okay. But they've actually looked good. And so this is going to be a fun game. My gut instinct is to say Lawrence in this one. Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm going to go with Lawrence. It's the injuries around Goff that worries me, like I said before. So before all these injuries to his pass catchers, I would have gone Goff. He was our 8th ranked quarterback. We were saying that everyone should stream him. Just a great spot against Seattle, but just too many injuries now. I'm worried. Trevor looks really good so far. This happened a lot quicker. I thought the Jaguars might be a hot team like come week 9, not this early. So he looks good right now. I think this is going to be a shootout. So let's catch this. He may be trailing, but he's going to have to put the ball in the air. And I say roll with the hot hand here in Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I think the thing with Lawrence as a Bears fan, when you look at Fields and you're like, why not us?
Yeah.
And I think that there's some case to be made that the Jags went out and overspent on some players, and you can say, well, who cares, right? I mean, like, who cares if you overspend on Christian Kirk because he's helping you now? I just think that sort of thinking gets you in trouble down the line, and that's generally why the Jags haven't been very good, is that they don't really understand how to team build. And the Bears sort of took the approach like, we got to kind of clean the books out. So we're gonna hunt for bargains, and I think they took the smart approach in team building, but it's just a little frustrating because it doesn't feel like it's coming together as fast.
Yeah,
Lawrence is a really good processor, and he's shown that he's shown that big growth between first and second year. He's got an adult in the room. He's got a good offensive system. He's got some weapons. I think that Lawrence is moving quickly into that, like, okay, yeah, he's going to be a good quarterback. And And I think that hiring that offensive mind that has established is a smart thing. It was a smart thing, would have been a smart thing for the Bears to do as well. Obviously they went a different direction and they chose a defensive head coach. Again, could work out. Like, not saying that they brought in a first-time play caller, but I think you're kind of seeing a difference between what that does. I think that if the Bears would have brought in like Brian Daboll, that may have made this kind of difference. There was a Doug Peterson buzz for the Bears as well. Be kind of curious to see what he would have been able to do with that. But he also just fired Matt Nagy, and they're maybe two very different branches from the Andy Reid tree, but still generally, teams don't hire from the same tree when they just fire a guy that they're not happy with. So I don't know. I just find that whole situation interesting. I think the Jags are now pretty interesting. Good for them. Yeah. I don't know how many Jaguar fans are out there. Like, I think it's a smaller fan base, but they're a suffering fan base too. Like they just have not been very good very often. And so if they have a guy and he stays in the AFC as a Bears fan, okay, great. Like, be a guy. Now you, as a Bengals fan, have to worry about all of these AFC quarterbacks, even though you have one. Yeah. But I'm curious, like from a fantasy standpoint, how do you kind of take these young quarterbacks and when do you move them in from like they're still unknown, we don't know if we can trust them, to like, yep, this is a guy we now trust, and where is Lawrence at in that spectrum for you?
I think Lawrence is at the point where we can trust him. I mean, we have to look at it from a fantasy perspective. So we're usually looking for volume, whether it's passing volume or rushing volume. That's kind of been why we have to give up on Justin Fields for a fantasy perspective, just because the volume hasn't been there. Regardless of the play, we just need more output from him. And I think Lawrence, we're getting there. He's throwing touchdowns now. He had one of the lowest touchdown rates as a rookie ever last year, Lawrence did. And the fact that he's putting up touchdowns every week, he had 3 last week, 2 the week before. So we're seeing everything we would want from Lawrence here. The defense is actually they've got a bunch of good athletes on the defensive line that's causing problems. So I think that's a good thing. They're not going to be trailing by 21. They're going to be in these games. It looks like their team is coming together. So I agree. They have more weapons than Fields does. So I think we're there with Lawrence. The other quarterbacks, I've got a long ways to go. I'm nowhere near trusting Zach Wilson yet. We just haven't seen him string together consecutive games of competency. We'll see how he looks this week. So I think that's kind of what you want to see is, can you predict these guys at all? If you were going to stream one of these quarterbacks, could you trust them in a good matchup? And I think we are there with Lawrence. The rest of the younger quarterbacks, I'm just not there yet with.
Yeah, I think that's right. Like you said, Lawrence is probably the only guy out of that. So let's talk about, you mentioned Goff as a potential streamer, but then all the weapons, you're kind of backing off of that.
Yeah.
Lawrence, I don't know how widely owned he is, but he might be a guy that people are starting to pick up, and either he's out there to stream or maybe he's out there to replace some guys, if you suffered a quarterback injury early. But who are the other QB streamers for this week that you like, or tight end streamers? Those are kind of the two positions that seem to be the most popular, where you kind of pop in and need to fill a gap.
Yeah, quarterback's actually rough this year because there are a lot of people who've run out and got their second quarterback, with players like, Aaron Rodgers not doing great from a fantasy perspective. Stafford hasn't been great. Russell Wilson, there's a bunch of those. So I think Lawrence is 75% rostered now. A lot of people have needed to pick him up. Like I said, Goff was a streamer. He's still in play. Seattle's not a great defense. So you can still play Goff. I actually, as crazy as it is, I kind of like both of the quarterbacks in the Atlanta-Cleveland matchup.
Sure.
Marcus Mariota has been a pretty good fantasy quarterback this year. He's playing at home against the Browns. The Browns are without both Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett this week. So Cleveland's been giving up a lot of fantasy points to quarterbacks anyway, and now they're without their pass rushers. So I kind of like Mariota, got him around QB 12, 13 this week. He's been rushing the ball, 8 rushing attempts a game. I think it's going to be a little sneaky shootout in there. And even Jacoby Brissett, if you have to go super, super deep, Jacoby Brissett, has been playing well. I mean, he's better than a lot of quarterbacks that people are starting out there so far this year. The offense, they know what they are, but he looks better than Baker Mayfield did last year, and Atlanta's not a good defense. So, I mean, you're looking at Brissett. He was the QB 12 last week against Pittsburgh. I don't see any reason why in Atlanta, if the defense gives up some points and he's got to pass a little more, you couldn't get a good week out of him.
Oh, I know you didn't catch the first part of the show, but the bet that I feel best about this week is the over bet in that game. It's 47, which is not like the craziest over underline, right? I mean, it gets above 50, it's a lot. But it's 47, and you have two offenses that are both top 10 in DVOA in both running and passing, which you wouldn't expect. You may expect the running game to be good. Clearly, you expect the running game to be good in Cleveland. Like that's the one thing you expect to be good. You didn't expect the passing game to be efficient, but it is. You didn't necessarily expect the running game to be efficient in Atlanta, but it is. And the passing game, you might expect to be okay, but with Marcus Mariota, you're not thinking it's going to be good. Top 10. Like all of it's top 10. So these are two really good offenses, and the defense is not so much. To me, that all of the analytics say that this is going to score a lot of points, and you should get some fantasy players inside of this game if you can. I mean, I like Nick Chubb. I had an over bet on Nick Chubb scoring a touchdown. Okay, right. But I probably didn't put enough players into this lineup because maybe they're not as predictable where all the yards are going to come from, or but they're really efficient. And so if you can get them in your lineup, that's a pretty good thing there. And I do think there's going to be a lot of points in this game.
Yeah, Falcons have. I mean, Mariota's bombing it out this year when they pass. Like it's all play action, deep shots to Pitts and London, and it's an interesting offense, man. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I think for now, especially in a home game, like let's ride at Browns without that pass rush. I think they could really struggle against the pass this week.
I think their play action attempts are like 50%, almost 50% of their passes, or some insane number like that. So that's pretty cool. I like Arthur. So Arthur Smith and Brian Daboll were my guys that when I thought the Bears were going to fire their coach, the year before. And so those are the two guys that I identified as like wanting to come bring into Chicago. And when you do that and it didn't happen. That's fine. No big deal. You kind of just want to see how they did. Right. Like, so if they're terrible, you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess maybe I'm happy I was wrong, or, happy that it didn't go that direction. And Arthur Smith's like, I mean, he's in third year. He's had some questionable press conferences. He's clearly not, not an easy guy to cheer for as a head coach. I don't know if that's a thing, but I think there's guys you feel good about being your head coach. He's not great, but he understands offense. And he's put his players in a position to succeed. He's really kind of cranking dials to numbers that we haven't seen before. That's a lot of fun. And so I think as an offensive mind, he's proven that he's pretty interesting. He's willing to kind of flip convention on its head. And then Daboll, way too early to tell there, but interesting stuff. It's interesting stuff.
Arthur Smith's it's hard to figure out this Falcons team. They have been in every game, it feels like, for the last year plus, and he does make some questionable decisions, but the offense seems sound. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll be really fascinated to see him with a quarterback and see if some of these rough edges kind of go away when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, and they're kind of building out the infrastructure there in an interesting way. So anything else in terms of like injuries? Obviously the big injury, the big injury, like surprise this morning, was Kamara getting ruled out of that game, which is rough for my opponent who did not bench him. So no mercy. I do not care, but I'll take any edge I can get, any advantage I can get. And by the way, the Vikings are losing.
I see that.
Unreal.
Oh, Vikings to Andy Dalton in London, just like we all predicted.
Such a Vikings thing to do. So
yeah.
So what any injury things that people should know about is start coming out here. We're about an hour away from kickoff.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like Michael Gallup is active. I wouldn't start him in his first game back, but it does have some implications for Noah Brown. I still think Brown is fine. I wouldn't worry too much, but they are starting to get healthy in Dallas. Dak is going to be back soon. They think maybe week 5, week 6, somewhere in there. So this Cowboys offense is on the upswing here, but Gallup's good to go. Gabe Davis is good to go. You can start him with confidence. Like I said, he played so many snaps last week that if he's playing again this week, I would say fire him up if you need him. All those Lions players, like we said, Swift, Chark, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Keenan Allen's out again. Dalton Schultz is playing. So that's just some of the quick quick breakdown here. Kenyon Drake is a healthy scratch for the Ravens. It seems like it's J.K. Dobbins and I'm trying to think of the backup running back they've been using along with him, Justice Hill. Those are the primary options for Baltimore right now. So I don't know. We can just kind of get to some questionable sit-start stuff if you want, but the injury stuff, I think nothing real shocking since that Kamara injury this morning.
Yeah, let's hit up a couple and then let's get out of here and enjoy Sunday football.
Yeah, so I guess we didn't touch on tight end streamers. I always think they're worth mentioning because some people are just stuck at that position. It's cheating, but if David Njoku is out there, last I saw he was about 66% rostered. I would pick him up for Cleveland. He's been playing all the snaps for them this year, like third most snaps among all tight ends. And he had a 32% target share last week and had 9 catches for 89 and a touchdown. Like, that's all you need at tight end. One glimmer of hope. It's like, hey, let's add him and see if it happens again. So again, we said how much we like that Falcons-Browns game. So that's a nice matchup there. Tyler Conklin is still available in a lot of leagues. He's the tight end 3 on the year. I'm a little worried because Zach Wilson has come back and Flacco is leading the league in attempts. And I expect that number to come down a little bit, but Conklin is still getting a lot of work for the Jets. So he's a streamer play. And Evan Ingram, I had him on my DFS lineup. You never like playing Evan Ingram, but he's only 24% rostered. They're using him a lot. Like, if Trevor Lawrence is going to break out, I think he can drag Evan Ingram along with him for some, kind of tight end 12 overall weeks. So those are some of the streaming options. I would say I hate bringing up a Packer, but Robert Tonyan, I'm not ready to quite start him yet. But coming back off that injury from last year, his snaps are slowly ramping up. He was up to about 60% of the snaps last week, and he was only one of 5 tight ends last week with a 20% target share. So they used him when he was out there. So I would still like to see him playing closer to 70 or 80% of the snaps, Robert Tonyan, but he's getting there where we may be starting him next week if this kind of continues.
Yeah, Tonyan rhymes with Funyun. I remember that. I've got the Mark Andrews guy who seems to be playing okay. He's an okay option if you spent big on tight ends. I'm fascinated by the report earlier to kind of close up the injury stuff, though, of Brian Robinson. Yep. It sounds like they're ready to activate him next week.
Yep.
So I don't know how quickly he can get back into football condition and make an impact in the Commanders lineup. But if he's somehow out there, he's only at 54% rostered in Yahoo. It seems like the time is now to go pick up Brian Robinson.
Absolutely. And actually, Antonio Gibson was already in my notes this week when I wrote up the rankings. Things are not looking good for Gibson. His snap shares started at 64% week 1, then went to 54. Last week, it was down to 44. He was outsnapped by J.D. McKissick. Is his target share, Gibson has gone from 20% to 9% to 2%. Like, they're obviously phasing him out of the passing game for McKissick. And so I got him RB 28 this week. Like, I kind of talked about how I don't really love Washington in this matchup against Dallas anyway. Dallas has looked really good on defense. And there are a lot of players I would play even before we get Brian Robinson back this week over Antonio Gibson. Like, I'd take a shot on Damian Pierce or A.J. Dillon or Jeff Wilson, those kind of players. Gibson is just trending in the wrong direction. And yeah, when Robinson gets back, this could be really bad for Gibson.
Yeah, just an insane story all the way around. Yeah. But one of those opportunities where if you're in one of those 46% of leagues, drop whoever is on your bench that you're not playing. Like, get rid of them and pick this guy up, because this could legitimately be an RB2 down, for the rest of the year. So just get him in your lineup, stash him on the bench for a couple of weeks, and let's see where that guy goes. So maybe one more start sit, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like I talk about him every week, but it's worth bringing up the Rams backfield because that is a good offense, and Cam Akers, I think it's his backfield again. It's ramping back up. He's gone 18% snaps to 44% to 50% last week. Darrell Henderson's have come down in the exact opposite direction. Obviously, I don't want to play Akers against San Francisco this week, but I do think that he's retaking this backfield, and it might even be time to kind of go out and trade for him if he puts up a stinker against San Francisco. Like, it's just a really good defense. So if he kind of continues the snap share, I think he's a desperation play. You can put him in your lineup if you need to this week, just because I wouldn't be surprised if he leads the backfield in snaps. But we're trying to wait another week on Akers. But I'm expecting a bad week. So don't freak out if this is a bad week against San Francisco. And then if someone needs a really like desperation start at running back, like really desperation, Craig Reynolds, the backup for the Lions, he's going to be backing up Jamal Williams. When Swift was out last year, he saw like 46% of the snaps, 65% of the snaps. They were using Craig Reynolds. So this is like deep league flex stuff, but he's out there in a lot of leagues. And with DeAndre Swift out, like this is a really nice matchup against Seattle.
Hard Knocks legend, man. They love him. They loved him on Hard Knocks.
Exactly.
So yeah, Craig. What do you think about Craig? We can't cut Craig, can we?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like it. Mostert, however you say it. He already played, obviously, but that's another guy that seems to be trending up in the right direction. Seems like he's maybe overtaken Chase Edmonds in that RB1 role down in Miami, which that Miami offense we'll see obviously with all the Tua stuff. Hope for his health and however long it takes him to get back. But that offense does seem like it can put up some yards and some points. And so if he's still out there, that seems like another guy that you should probably, well, at this point you have to put in waivers, but seems like another guy trending in the right direction. Yep.
And I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, not ideal QB1 for you, but he's a competent backup. And especially if that scheme's good, they got speed that he could get the ball to. So I don't think that offense is a complete disaster if Teddy Bridgewater's playing. So
love it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we'll get out of here. Thanks everybody for joining us. Again, bring your questions, bring your start sit, bring your trade offers, whatever. We'll arbitrate them and we'll do everything we can to help you out. Good luck, everybody. Stack some chips, stack some wins, and let's get it.